Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tanya Tyler, and I'm excited because we're going to be talking to Miss Ayana Ames and about how she started her clothing line. And yes, ladies, she's got some special stuff about maybe you didn't know because she doesn't do women, she does men. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Miss Ayana to the call. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
I'm excited to connect with you too. We met. I always like to tell the audience like how we met. We met at a networking event here in Cincinnati, and you had great display of men's clothing, and of course I stopped because I was like, this is some great stuff. So without further ado, please tell the audience about who you are and maybe some lessons you've learned over the years after we've had to reopen after this whole pandemic. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you. So, that's the thing we don't like to do as people is talk about ourselves, right? So I actually went to the University of Alabama and graduated in 2014 with an apparel and textile major under the Human Environmental Sciences bachelor's degree, which nobody thinks about that. You're like, what? Fashion is under human environmental science? Okay. So I graduated and I started going into custom clothing after I graduated, worked in a couple different spaces outside of fashion. And I am a Virginia native and I moved to Cincinnati about 3 years ago and I'm loving it here so far. So I'm here and I started Amline Collections, which is our menswear brand, back in 2014, but officially launched at the end of 2019, right before the pandemic hit. With our first collection.
Well, first of all, I have to say congratulations on launching your men's clothing line. So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you.
What did you learn from the pandemic? What did it teach you? I mean, about, you're maybe following your dreams, going for what you know. What did it teach you?
So it's a lot of, a lot of pivoting. Pivoting. COVID was nothing but pivoting. So I had started getting into the manufacturing space for my business around sometime in 2018, learning more about it. And then 2019, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna start sampling my first collection for the brand. And we were like, yeah, we're going to launch 2020. 2020 is going to be a great year. Started making sales calls, all these things. And then boom, we're going to shut down. Okay, so am I going to get my production? I got part of my production on time and the other part I waited 6 months and didn't get it until September. So, and you're starting a men's brand as a woman and you're like, okay, well, hey guys, you're looking for some stuff. So it was a lot. I was very energized that year, even though we had the pandemic, everything was closed, but it was a pretty good year, especially for the holidays. Everybody was online shopping. So there was a big opportunity for brands to be seen through Google searches and stuff like that. So 2020 was actually a decent year, even though it was very weird at the same time.
Right.
And then we pivoted and I was like, okay, well, women were stealing men's clothing anyway. So, hey, here's some shirts that are unisex. Get yours too.
Right. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because it segues into the next question because I asked you when you were telling me about your background and what you did, I was asking why didn't you go into women's clothing? And you gave me a very interesting history as to why you did it. So can you, share why?
Absolutely. Women's wear is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's concentrated, right? So there's a lot of options for women's wear, a lot of different designs, and it's saturated. That's the word I'm looking for. The market is saturated and it's always evolving. And I can throw a dress together in 2 hours, pattern work and everything. Men's wear for me was a challenge. So there's the things that people don't look at for menswear, like men have curves. There are subtle measurements that we don't look at because, everyone's like, oh, man's straight. No, he's not. No, he's not. So it just interested me, especially also with the history of men's fashion. Most of their styles still revolve from the 1800s. classic basic pieces, 1800s, no real change. There are some changes, a lot of different designers that are out here that are making changes and trying to make waves in the menswear community. And I want to be a part of it.
Right. And I have to say, because every time I have like an intro call, there's always something that sticks out to me. And when you said that men have curves, I never really stopped to think about that. So what put that on your radar? I mean, because you were saying you explained a little bit more about, the dynamic of their curves and stuff like that. So can you expand upon why this is such a passion for you?
It's a different space, I guess. And, men don't have a lot of options. We think they do, but they really don't. So it's like, why can't they have more options too available to them? That's different. That allows them to speak to who they are and their style and what they want to say about themselves. So they should have that option just as much as women do. And that's where I kind of got my passion in bringing in like the innovation and like smaller things like texture, little details into the designs that men don't have, that women have.
Right. I love it. And I want to ask you, pivot a little bit about, maybe overcoming, people are thinking that clothing line it's not for them or they can't do it. So what would maybe some key tips that you would advise to somebody who's thinking about going into the design space?
Have a lot of patience. One, two, your initial thought, especially if you're going into manufacturing, your idea of what the design might be may not turn out 100% exactly as you've given it to the factory to give. But if it's close, if it's within 90% of what you're looking for, it's okay. Nobody else is going to know other than you, unless you point it out to somebody like, this isn't what I wanted. Nobody else is going to know. But it's a lot of patience from concept to selling the piece into actually growing a brand.
Right. And I always like to ask where people got it from. Where did this design or this passion for, maybe clothing or design come from? Were you always did you draw clothes when you were kids? I mean, where did this come from?
Yeah, actually I did. And I didn't realize what I was doing, honestly. And I used to twirl the baton. So I would compete and I would design my own costumes and my coach would sew them. I was sewing and learning how to sew from my grandma and my mom when I was little and always wanted to do something. So I was sewing little pieces for my Barbies growing up. Crazy. And then I was drawing, I don't know, bathing suits and stuff using nail polish to color them. And then I got to 8th grade. I'm like, oh, fashion is interesting. Okay. And I was looking through Ebony magazine all through 5th grade, 6th grade, going straight to the fashion section to look at the photos and the presentations there. And then it really hit me, even though I wanted to go into chemistry for the longest. It hit me. I was like, you know what? Maybe I could do both. Got to my senior year of high school, took AP Chem, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to be a chemist. We're going to stick with fashion. And that's how it went.
Right. I love it. And this is the part I want to remind you, if you've been picking up what Ayana's been dropping, some juicy gems, please make sure you hit that like button and let us know, maybe follow up with some comments down below. We're going to dive more into the business. So I know that design sort of comes naturally, right? So how did this pivot of being an entrepreneur come into play? Where did that come from?
That's a good question. Honestly, getting into the fashion industry is very hard. I applied 1,000,001 places after graduating. I interned for a boutique, and then I started working for another company. But I never actually got a job for any major brand. But I still learned a lot. So my family has business. They own a funeral home, which I'm also a licensed funeral director in Virginia. So again, many hats. But seeing that in my family, everybody, I guess you could say, is a hustler. Everybody has an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always wanted my own business. Originally, I thought about having a boutique, and then it became, no, I just want my own brand. And then I graduated and I was like, yeah, we're going to start this. Why not? I'm going to do it now. Better than later.
Right. And I know with the design thing, you know, it comes with a lot of like, you know, your passion and your drawing and stuff like that. And then like, so dealing with the entrepreneur, that's a whole different other kind of mindset. So again, my question is, what would be your tips to somebody who's like looking at the entrepreneur and considering maybe the boutique side or the brand side? What was the biggest thing that you say was the catalyst for you to say, do your own line? What?
I didn't want to own a retail store. That was my catalyst. That was my catalyst. But in the same sense and same breath, I mean, I have an e-commerce store, right? I have a website. So in that essence, it's still retail. But for me, it was the design side as opposed to the selling and the merchandising, and having that space. But for anyone who wants to go into having their own business, it's a soul thing. Like, you know, you got to feel it deep down. You got to be energetic about it because, you know, you have a lot of freedom as an entrepreneur. You make your own schedule, but if you're not dedicated or disciplined enough to keep it and do what you need to do, it's not going to make a difference. It's not, you know, having a free schedule isn't always helpful.
Right. So what's the biggest lesson you've learned since you've started your journey on your clothing line that maybe you'd like to share with somebody who's coming behind you?
Can't give up. One. Two, it's not easy, especially when you're a one-person show, like doing everything from the marketing to the designing or whatever your business is. It's a challenge, but time management is definitely key. I probably have like 3 different planners with all the details everywhere. So
Right.
just keeping organized and making sure I'm disciplined to do what I need to do.
And I see you're on Instagram, and I want to say, if you haven't checked out Ayana on, I would definitely say, if you haven't, and if you have, please make sure you follow her on Instagram, because you have some great I guess models that you draw from. Are they family? Just curious.
No, these are friends or people I've met that I work with. They're actual models or people I've met on the street. And I'm like, oh, would you be interested in modeling? And I'm usually the photographer. So, and we just go from there and shoot, and I'll bring the clothes or whatever samples I have. And like, okay, this is what we're doing today.
Right. I like said, I'm fascinated. I just figured I had to ask you because I was like, I love your work. So did you take a photography class as well, or?
Yes, I actually minored in photography, and it's kind of one of my other side things I like to do.
Well, like I said, you dropped a lot of nuggets, and I wanted to really capture the one key question. Is like, what's the one thing you want people to take away from your interview today if they don't understand anything else that you say? What's the one juicy gem that you want them to understand from you?
That clothing isn't just clothing. It's an expression of who you are, and you should be able to express that no matter what options you have available to you.
Right. So great wisdom. Thank you. And where can people find more information about you, your services, and what you do in your clothing line?
So you can find us at amelinecollections.com or Ameline Collections on Facebook and Instagram. And we're trying to grow our TikTok, but we haven't gotten there yet.
And I for those who are not on watching the YouTube here, can you spell what Ameline is? How they can?
So on our social, it's all no punctuations or anything. So AMALINE, and then the word collections behind that. If you're looking us up on Google without our URL, it's am.a hyphen the word line and collections.
Thank you very much. And for those who did not check out the YouTube, I will put the information that Ayana mentioned down in the description box below. And I want to say again, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to take away that maybe before we close out, that you want people to take away today? Anything
Hmm.
else that I didn't ask?
Let me see. No, I think you had some very good questions, and I appreciate you having me.
It's a pleasure. Again, like I said, I look forward to connecting with us on another event. We connected on the Hustle for Change event. So shout out to Rise Business Solutions over there for bringing us together. And I want to again say thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom with us on the show.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank everybody who tuned in, and remember that today, that feedback is always welcome. Links that Ayana mentioned will be posted down in the description box below. And if you enjoyed today's show, please give us a like, hit that like button over there. And remember, if you want to continue getting more insight like what Ms. Ayana shared today and other great guests, please hit that subscribe button over there. And remember, take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own place. And we will create your own path. And we will see you back here on another episode of Coffee with Tea. All right. Bye-bye.